can you share a bit more about Howspace, like what you are doing as a company and kind of where you are in your growth journey currently?
Yes. So at the moment, we are around 80 people working in 10 plus countries, working in a remote first way. We are in the business where we have been like creating a platform for several purposes, and now we are like pivoting a bit our business to be like putting everything together. So the category that we are creating at the moment is currently called as Transformation Design and Implementation Platform, that contains several elements for workshopping, learning programs, community approach, and like general long-term collaboration. And we are strongest when there's plenty of people participating into the processes that are facilitated on top of Howspace. Our revenue last year was 7.2 million euros, and we have customers close to 50 different countries at the moment. And then we have a huge network of partners who are using Howspace as part of their own work, their customer work in most cases, close to 200 partners all over the world.
Great. You mentioned there remote first. Is it something that you've been basically from day number one building a remote first company, or is it something that changed during the years?
So we have some practices that we have been utilizing for maybe 15 years or so. We have been like English-speaking company all that time, and then we have great experts in different countries. So even we still have offices like in Jyväskylä, where we are originally from, and in Helsinki, and in Stockholm. Quite a lot of people also in those towns, they are working from home. So we have nice offices, but still people prefer to have autonomy to decide where and when they work. So this kind of quite autonomic culture is part of how we operate, and part of that is possibilities to work wherever you like to work.
Yeah, I've been thinking kind of for ourselves whether we should have an office or not. Currently, we are working like fully remotely. We don't have an office. We do have and I feel like if you're fully remote, it's kind of rather easy. If you are all in the same place, it's easy. But the hybrid one is the most challenging one, actually. Like, because then easily, like if some people are in the office, they are kind of building their own culture on the office. And then there are people who are never visiting the office, and then they have a different culture. Like, have you had challenges around kind of having kind of two different groups of people in a way?
Yeah, and even more than two. So different regions are adding the cultural layer to the culture and so on. Yeah, I think people have found the flexible way. So I think once people are at office, they are mostly wearing headset, so they are connecting to other parts of organization and to customers. Sometimes when visiting Helsinki office, for example, it feels like everyone is somewhere else, even they are present. So that, but what is the richness of having offices is this kind of unofficial discussions that is really hard to create remotely.
Yeah, I totally agree on that one. If I think about my previous place where I worked most of the time remotely, but every now and then went to the office, I felt like the office days were, I would say, they were important, and there was really kind of a lot of those discussions with colleagues, but I felt like I didn't kind of get anything done from my to-do list, or haven't had a chance to have sales calls with customers or anything like that. But it was like valuable, but in other way, I would say.
Yeah, that's correct. And I'm located in Jyväskylä, and when I visit Helsinki office, I try to keep my calendar as open as possible. so that in my role I can hang around and have like small discussions here and there, probably disturbing others' job while hanging around. But I think it's important to build the relationships and connections as well. So work is not all about just getting things done. It's also about relationships, and the relationships are helping us to get things done. And there needs to be like special time reserved for those purposes as well.
Exactly. You mentioned there that kind of from the beginning as well, the kind of internal language was English, and there was the kind of remote opportunity. Was it mainly because kind of you wanted to build an international company, or did you felt like that you can basically get a larger talent pool, better talent when you don't kind of set up like, hey, you need to be sitting in Helsinki or Jyväskylä, you need to be speaking Finnish, or what was the kind of reasoning behind there?
It was pretty simple. We got our first English-speaking employee at that time, and then in order to keep everyone on board, we shifted, especially our written communication to English, so that all the documents are in English. And of course, if we have a group of only Finnish speakers and there's no one listening to us, we are speaking Finnish. But if someone is like in hearing distance, then we switch to English so that no one is feeling like outsider.
Yeah, that's good. I think about kind of from our perspective. Currently, we are a team of only Finnish-speaking people, but we do have international growth goals. We do have international customers already, and if we look at the kind of language thing, like our Slack, for example, we are speaking Finnish over there. But if we are looking any documentation we are doing, we are building everything in English already. Kind of make sure that when that moment comes, and I know it comes quite soon, that we don't need to be translating everything in English at that stage. So I think it's a good decision to grow from there. But when did you kind of hire first people like outside of Finland, like working not from Finland but some other country?
That's already like more than 15 years ago.
Mm.
So it has been long history already. And what is quite funny, when you are in an online meeting and then there's someone who is speaking English in there, and then when that person leaves, we suddenly realize that, hey, we could actually speak Finnish. Or in the Slack or Howspace, it might be that shifting between languages is pretty natural, but suddenly you realize that, oh, I'm using wrong language in this discussion. Everyone else is speaking Finnish in here or writing in English, and then you're like a bit embarrassed to realize, oh, I should translate my communication to the other one.
Yeah, I remember having some similar experience in my time in advanced B2B, for example, on the kind of starting of the week, if you speak English, and then suddenly there's only Finnish-speaking people left, and then the language still goes in English. But I can imagine that you are not super big company, but still like 80 people. It is quite a lot of people, international people in different places, for sure. Like a lot of challenges regarding leadership as well. But then at the same time, I kind of know that you don't have leaders in a sense that kind of normal companies are having. So can you talk a bit more on that, kind of your organizational structure, how you ended up in the model that you are currently working at?
Yeah, that's something that is always a work in progress. 2017, we were 7 people, and in a couple of years being like more than 10 times that, it requires some changes in the organization structures. And we try to be pretty agile, so we are trying different structures. We highly appreciate collaboration and see that the best things are happening when different kind of talents are coming together. And so what I would like to see always in an organization where I'm working is that people should be able to give their best possible efforts, and they are not limited by leadership or too tight structures or processes. And at the same time, when you are getting more international, there's bigger teams, multiple cultures, then it's not beneficial to stick on something that worked with a local team in Jyväskylä originally. So we have to find the structures and ways. So what kind of forums are needed? What kind of decision-making structures are needed? So when you already have 80 people, it's some kind of combination of like teal type of organization, but still having structures that can take you forward. We are not talking about management team. We are talking about navigation group. That is the one who is like trying to shift the direction when needed, and is somehow in control of the business, and still being as teal as possible, so that the structures are not hindering people to be the best versions of themselves. And it's always like balancing between those.
Yeah.
So it's easy to be fundamentally something, and then being some kind of mix of different approaches is something that we are working on at the moment. So like defining our culture. In the beginning, like from 2017, we had strong internal guiding principles that were like revisited almost on monthly basis. So that what is our culture, what are our values about, and those need to be revisited. They started to behave like organizational practices or part of daily routines, even they were not meant to be, that they were more like values that are guiding us. And if you try to be like 100% value driven, it's like it can be demanding for the business.
It can. And I've been thinking about kind of, when we think about those things, like how we are kind of able to recruit people who kind of fit those things. So there is basically, I think there are maybe kind of three things. Like first, there is of course, the skill set of the, actual skills that you need in that position. If it's sales, like what kind of sales skills this person has, or is marketing, like can this person write content or do paid advertising? Then secondly, there is kind of those things that are, say, still skills or mindset kind of stuff, like can they lead themselves, or are they able to give feedback or things like that? And then maybe thirdly, like do people share the vision of the company, the values of the company? And I think like one thing that I've been struggling a lot and would be interested to hear your thoughts on the fact that I believe that in your kind of organization, you want to have people who are able to lead themselves quite much. Like how to test that one in the recruitment process, because that is something that I've been struggling a bit and kind of trying to figure out like how you can test that one. Yeah, you can of course ask like, hey, are you able to lead yourself? But I I think that's not the correct way of doing that one. Like how have you approached that one?
Oh, that's a good question. So we have quite a specific recruitment process. We have internal recruiter who is really, really good at her job. And she has been and is always like developing the way of doing that job. So because we are hiring colleagues, there's always plenty of people who are involved in the recruitment process. Already when we are like defining the role description, it's done in a collaborative way. So several people are coming to Howspace where we are like co-writing the description and adding layers to the original description. And then there's like different interviews, several interviews. Some of them are like about your expertise in the area. Then there's cultural interview that is a separate one. We have templates where we are documenting those things. And we try to move on in a way that if there's any kind of red flags we will drop the candidate. So that there needs to be a fit in all those three areas that you mentioned, so that it's a fit. And then what is really interesting is that people have entered the company in different phases. So those who have been with us for 5 years, when we were like 10, 20 people, it was a different company. And then how new people are joining the company, how the people who have been with us for a longer time, how flexible they are in understanding that okay, we are a bigger company, we need some structures, we need some processes. There is some things that must be done in order to be, for example, data-driven company as we would like to be. So the data needs to be like done, all the documentation, like from marketing and sales processes. In order to measure it, it has to be in place and has to be followed. And so there has been a lot of discussion about autonomy. So what does it mean in our company, and is it all right to have autonomy with CRM system? And if there is, then we don't have like any accurate data to like make business decisions. But instead of like collecting data for the management purposes, our approach is that everyone have access to data, and it's like part of your own decision making by yourself or by your team or squad, as we are calling the customer facing groups at the moment. So that there needs to be like flexibility that and even when there's processes that you have to follow, it's important to recognize that what is the place for autonomy and how to balance between those two.
Exactly. And I think what you mentioned there regarding hiring colleagues, I think that is a good way of putting that one, and kind of making sure that you are finding person for the team. And I've seen so many kind of failed recruitments where organizations are not kind of participating everyone inside of the organization for the recruitment. And typically that is very important, but it's very challenging as well. I just did a head of sales recruitment for one of our customers, and it was so fun to see like everyone disagreeing inside of the company what we actually need. CEO wanted something, sales team wanted something, CTO wanted something else. And then you're kind of navigating through all the wish lists from all the perspective, which is like super valuable to get the big picture. But then I think at the end you need someone, in your case, I think your talent acquisition lead, to kind of go through all the opinions and then kind of finalize the needed profile and what you can really find from the market. Of course, it's nice to have those wish lists of all the things that you would like to have, but it needs to be something that you actually can have from the market as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I think the part of writing the description is important, that the alignment happens already in there. And when you have cultural alignment as well, you don't have to like discuss about the cultural issues in every recruitment process separately, so that you can lean on the cultural aspects that have been like internalized by everyone in the company.
But you mentioned regarding you wanting to be a data-driven company. For sure, like some extent you are already, but there's always like something to do better. And I've been having these discussions lately regarding kind of recruitment people data. And what I've noticed is like typically different people have different data that they are interested in. So for example, a recruiter might be interested about number of applications that we are getting or something like that. But if you look from a kind of founder perspective, like what is interesting data for you, like regarding talent acquisition?
I think there's different layers. So of course, the work history is important. So when we are in SaaS business, experience in this field is important. And then it's always balancing between like how experienced people we would like to have, and if they are really experienced, are they ready to make their hands dirty and do the practical job that we still need when we are 80 people. There cannot be like just experts leading others. Everyone has to be really, really working in practical issues as well. So that kind of willingness to, for example, if you are already an experienced SaaS professional and you have been doing the journey that we are taking today, and then you are like coming back to the earlier stage, it's easy to like think that, okay, I continue as I did. And that's a really important part of the interviews as part of recruitment process, that are you really willing to work? Are you really still capable of doing things in practical level? And it might be that people are used to have like a big team around them, and then there can be like just a couple of people, or you are doing it alone, and still you need to survive and get things done. Then the cultural things, we have been like fine-tuning the questions that are somehow digging deep in the behavior side of people. So asking about the biggest mistakes, or what did you do in tough situations, and how did you respond to certain challenges in your job. And that is telling quite a lot about the candidate.
Mm. Yeah, those are typically very very opening questions. Maybe lastly, like now we've been talking a lot about kind of the acquisition side of things. So how do we get people in? But I think even more important part is how to make sure that the people we get in are staying, they are performing, they are happy, and all that. So can you share a bit more about kind of the retention part of things? Like maybe first, a little bit of background on that one. Like, would you say that you have succeeded over there? Would you say that you have had some challenges over there, or how's that part looking from kind of numbers perspective?
Yeah, I wish that I could say that we have done perfect job all the time, but that's not true. I think everyone is making mistakes, and I think for us the most important part is that we have a strong vision and mission, that why do we exist? Why are we in this business? And what is the good for the world and planet and humankind that we are doing? And really like do it in practice as well. And then there's like many different aspects. One being like the career path. And when you have a flat organization, it doesn't build the traditional way of getting up in the ladders of organization. And what is typical for most of the organizations is that part of the organization is executing the things that management has decided. And then if you are just like delivering and you are not allowed to think, I think that's like a horrible part of the work. So balancing between those things, that how can you feel that even without new position, you can feel that you are appreciated and you are moving forward and you are learning and you are developing. And once we are like having roles and hierarchies, it easily creates that situation that others are developing the job and others are just doing it. And what I really wish is that everyone in our organization could think that they can like have 100% their brains on the job, and they are not just closing them down once they are entering the office or starting their work day, and just delivering and doing just like quantitative stuff that they are measured of, but they should be like, there should be places for reflections and co-creation and developing the business. And then at the same time, balancing that in a way that we are not just keeping and having internal meetings where we are developing stuff, we need to be able to execute as well. And like reflective practices are part of everything we do. So, for example, in recruitment, we always have a closing meeting where we are reflecting about the process and how the process could be developed and how everyone was involved in the process and how did it work and what can we do better in the next case. Also, when there's exit discussions, it's important to collect all the learnings from there. On a weekly basis, the customer-facing teams are having reflective team meetings where they are checking out what happened this week, where we succeeded, what can we improve, so that all your knowledge is utilized by yourself and your colleagues.
Sounds good. And what you mentioned regarding career paths is actually, I think, quite interesting. I feel like lately there's been a lot of discussion that kind of the traditional way of career paths is that, you know, if you are a professional, super good at what you do, basically the only way to go up or earn more money is to take a leadership position or team lead position. But I just listened to a podcast episode. There was, I think, was a president from Spotify, Shopify, and he was talking about the fact like how they've been trying to build up actually career paths for people who wants to be an expert on their field. So you can kind of really, really focus on something that you are good at. Like no need to take a leadership position, and that cannot be the only way to make more money. And I like that approach. Ton of times, you know, good salesperson becomes a head of sales and things doesn't work out or something like that. So I think if you're an expert, it doesn't mean that you are a good leader. And I think it's kind of good that is changing all the time.
Yeah, exactly. I fully agree.
But maybe, hey, lastly, you mentioned that you are having these kind of retrospectives where you go through like what has been working, what hasn't been working. What would you say, kind of, if you could now go back time, let's say, not the whole journey, but maybe the last 4 or 5 years when you've been kind of growing rapidly, and you could take out like one biggest learning regarding hiring people, what to do differently, like if you would start all over again, like what would that one thing be?
Yeah, that makes me think a lot. So of course, one simple thing is that when you are scaling up your business, you should scale up only the things that you are 100% that they already work. And so not being in too much in a hurry to move forward without having a proof that things work. And then one thing that we have been like struggling with is like when talking about sales is that how much domain expertise is needed to be successful in our organization. And then part of the solution has been that we don't have to be perfect in all areas of the business, but if you are a great salesperson and you can close the deals and you are able to collaborate with domain experts so that you can bring in early enough your colleague who knows the business of the prospect, then working as a pair works greatly. And while you are working with your colleague with different kind of expertise, you cannot hinder your own learning. You will be becoming an expert in the domain area as well, and especially when you are listening customers carefully and understanding their world. So I think learning is highly important and in the context of the real work. So we believe in social learning and collaborative learning, and it's part of our product as well. And one part of our business is that we would like to be an organization that is a great example of organizations, how they operate, because our platform is about developing organizations and doing transformations in a way that are involving people. So we need to eat our own dog food.
And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully you got a lot of good ideas about SaaS talent acquisition. If you enjoyed the episode, feel free to share it on your social so others can hear it too. And if you have a topic in mind that you would like me to cover in this podcast, share it with me as well. I'm Samuli, CEO and co-founder in Talentbee, where we help fast-growing SaaS companies in their talent acquisition. Make sure to follow us, make sure to follow this podcast, and have an awesome week. Bye-bye.